So, a few things have occurred to me while looking at your newer drawings where you're referencing actual photographs as opposed to comic book pages. Um, One, I think that you're doing a lot of content, but you're doing it so small that it's so easy to make mistakes and not be able to fix them. Which is why I'm using this very large, this is called a cartridge pad, and I will send you the details on it. You can usually get them for fairly cheap at an art supply store. Get a cartridge pad, not a newspaper pad, not a craft pad, cartridge pad. I think they might also call it bond paper, but I will check for you. So this is one that's huge. It's like, I think it's like almost a meter by about a half a meter. It's really big. You don't have to use the whole thing. I'm just going to use a half sheet when I do this. So I'm going to go from about here to there. And the other thing is that I realized like a lot of the tutorials that I had been sending you were off of my iPad. And that's not really kind of a fair thing for you because you get to undo and change transparencies and then delete layers and stuff like that. Whereas, you're working on paper, you're working on something real and solid, and so you should be looking at a tutorial that is using similar materials to what you're using. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to sketch out this one photograph of you. It should become fairly obvious which one I'm doing pretty quickly. But yeah, so this is the first thing I'm doing, which is a line of action. Trying to capture from the top of your head to the bottom of the frame. I've chosen this one to start with because the camera angle is higher. It's a bird's eye view, which is automatically going to be more challenging. It's going to be a more challenging angle to try and work with. And I love how bold you are with like giving it a go, but it's, there is, there's things to consider when you're doing something like this. So all I've done here is I've just created this line of action, and now I'm starting on the basis of the skull. And then I'm drawing through, capturing a jawline, like that. All right, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to try and find the eye line, where the eyes kind of sit, like that. And then the center of the face, like that. All right. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this photograph, like I said, the bird's eye view, everything is reducing down in proportion from this angle. It's all kind of coming downward. Everything's getting smaller as it moves away from the camera lens. The next thing we want to look at is shoulder position. Looks like we're going around here. And then hip position, which is going to be something like this. Okay. Now, I'm going to pin the shoulders where I think I see them. Now, you're wearing really baggy clothing in this costume, so I can't be 100% sure, but I think I see sort of where your arms are going. Now, a good thing to think about with this is the general proportions. Now, it's going to be tough because the proportions are all shrinking as they move. I'm going to do a more standard straight ahead pose in a minute. But for now, we're just going to stick with this one. So I think what we've got here is essentially the overall kind of shape of the arms. Now, see, I've made this line for the hips. In this photo, I actually can't really see what your legs are doing that well, but I do know this is an important thing to know about when it comes to drawing people standing in natural poses, is that, I'll do a quick little doodle over here. If you're drawing a person who is standing in any kind of natural way, their body is going to have a tilt in one direction and then the other direction. This is something that the Greeks came up with, of course, because, you know, old Egyptian illustrations, everybody was like straight, which was very unnatural. So this is it's called contrapazzo or something like that. Maybe it's Italian, I don't know. But the point is that your hips are going in one direction and your shoulders are going in the other. The reason for this is that if they were both going the same direction, you would fall the fuck over. So shoulders are going that way, hips are going this way. And then we're going to give your rib cage a quick little kind of doodle there. And then the hips in a similar kind of way. Now, thing to know about contrapazzo is that the higher of the hips is the foot that is planted firmest on the ground. So you're standing hardest on that leg. This leg is either going to be bent or slightly askew, or maybe the foot isn't all the way flat on the ground, one way or the other. This leg is strong, this leg is just not as sturdy. So yeah, so then we've got, you know, we're going to build up the shoulder here, and then the neck is going to run into the ear like that. And then we've got this shoulder kind of comes up here like that in a way. And then, of course, we've got this really floofy kind of top on, so I can't be sure about what's happening there exactly, but I can make some pretty good guesses. And then the arm seems to go pretty straight, and then the hand takes a pretty giant turn there. Oh, that's another thing you need to remind me to send you is hand drawing exercises. I think as a new drawer, you need to give yourself like a lot of leeway when it comes to arms, because they are, even for strong artists, a very challenging thing to do. And the best thing to do is just to practice and fuck up and practice and fuck up and just keep going with it, because it's really, really difficult. I'm not even that great at it, but just keep trying, keep practicing. I'll send you a couple of things that really helped me when I was in animation school. There's this wonderful artist called Milt Kahl. He was one of the animators for Disney way back in the day. He was one of like the originals, and he was the guy who did like Shere Khan and like a bunch of the stuff in those early Disney movies. And so he's got some very expressive, very cool hands that you can kind of reference. All right, so there we go. So we've got the basic physical form here, more or less without the costume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove sort of some of the more aggressive structure lines that I've built up here, just so we can kind of get back to our basics. You can see what we're working with. All right. Now, what I like to do at this stage is, depending on whether it's a nude or not, which this isn't, I might go in with like more hard lines or more structure lines. But because this one's using a lot of fabric and it's really folded fabric, I do what is commonly known as a squint test. So I won't, right now I've got this image that I'm referencing on my computer screen. I'm looking at it right here off to my left-hand side. If you squint your eyes really, really narrowly and only notice dark areas versus light areas, you're going to get a good idea of kind of where you need to like punch in with kind of darkness. So I'm kind of contemplating right now whether I want to use pastels, markers, or keep going with the pencil. Let's get this hair figured out. So seeing this kind of cut across your eye line here, so we can still see the eye line that I made. So it's kind of cutting across there. And then very quickly it's coming through like that, right? There we go. We kind of got like the shape of the back of your head there, and then like a little bit of a poof. And then of course your hat is there. And then this, the fringe is going like that. And then this bit of the fringe kind of cuts over in that way. All right, cool. Yeah, sorry. And so regarding these ruffles and everything, let's try and sketch out a general shape for them. I suppose it's actually probably a fairly decent time to kind of give this nose a shape just so we know where it is. Seems about right. And then from that, you can see these ruffles shooting out like that around. I want to like loop back on something just really briefly. See these lines, these diagonal lines I made like this? This is like our camera view. This is like, we're seeing that shape. Everything's kind of funneling downwards. You can start it's a good way to like program your brain into thinking like, I'm not looking at this figure directly. I'm looking at it this way. And it's a good way to kind of lock in that idea of what you're seeing. All right, and so we've got your bare shoulder here, and then a little bit of a ruffle thingy there. It's all sort of sewn up in that way. And then we've got a big long poof. Kind of comes down to that little wrist there. The suspender. And so this is a good thing to look at too. This waistline is going to be a good anchor point for kind of referencing other shapes and such. There we go. Perfect. And then so we've got these ruffles here. Everything's coming up around there like that. There you go. All right. And so then there's this sleeve that's got these kind of twists and folds that way, and then a little flared out kind of wrist piece there. There you go. And then this has this fan type shape. And then there's just an absolute fuck ton of folds here. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When it comes to fabric, you could probably study fabric alone and just the way that shadows and fabric folds kind of influence light and shadow and stuff like that. For, I would say conservatively, if you studied it for 4 years, you'd probably be continuously learning things. I'm not great with folded fabric. That's why I mostly draw nudes, because you don't have to deal with that. But like, yeah, I'll send you some reference shots of artists I really admire who do the fabric fold stuff incredibly well. It's quite lovely when you see it, especially silk. Oh my god, silk. If somebody can like draw a shiny silk accurately, they're basically just like a living legend. They're absolutely incredible. All right, so we've got your little hand here, your knuckles there, and then you've got your forefinger coming out like that. And again, this is always going to be difficult. Like whether or not you draw every day for 9 to 12 hours a day, hands are never going to be simple. Like they're just not. It has a lot to do with how many bones there are in a hand. There's just so many bones. Oh, I'm noticing now where this leg is positioned. I got this all wrong. But the good thing is, it actually doesn't need to be fixed. Because it's still fine. Because the hip position is the same. But this one's crossing over like that. Your thigh's coming through this way. Thigh's coming like that. And then this one is coming down like this. Excellent. All right. The image actually cuts off much higher than this, but that's what you get out of structure. Like if you draw through a whole structure, like I would draw this entire figure if I wanted to. I'd have to guess at where the legs and feet land, but I could make some pretty good educated guesses about it because of my knowledge of anatomy, structure, and form and all that kind of stuff. So then you've got this like frill kind of thing happening here, and they kind of come up under there. So it all comes together in that way. All right. All right, so yeah. All right, and I'm going to squint again. I think I made this slightly larger than it needs to be. Yeah, there you go. All right, and so the fun part is obviously the details in the face. Everybody loves drawing the face the most because it's the most interesting part. It's what we look at all day when we look at people, look at the humans in our lives. We're looking at the face. Now, your eyes aren't particularly open in this photo. You're kind of looking downwards, so unfortunately we're not going to see much of your pupils or anything like that. But we're seeing this beautiful makeup that you've got on, which is absolutely lovely. Like that. And this wild lip look that you've got happening, which is so fun. Like that. And then there we go. And then the eye look, the eyebrow thing happening there. And then across. Tongue and teeth don't show up a whole hell of a lot in most things. It's pretty rare. And you're gonna find a lot of like shortcuts and things that you can do with lips, teeth, tongues, that kind of stuff. The fact of the matter is that most of the time mouths are incredibly unique and personal. Like most people's mouths do not look the same as other people's mouths. We've all got like really kind of odd shaped teeth and stuff that I actually think are lovely. Personally, I love that we all have sort of unique dental shapes, but you know, people get surgery to correct it so they look all the same. I think that's silly. I love like a good weird kind of fang or tooth gap. Oh my gosh, tooth gaps are so beautiful. Yeah, you know. So again, we can squint, I think, is probably a good thing to try at this stage. Really kind of look for like, is anything really kind of standing out as like not quite the way it should be? All right. Yeah, and then at that stage, like, so with what you do with the colors and stuff like that, you can pretty much kind of grab your eraser or rubber, as they call them here in Australia, which is odd to me, but They do that. And just gently kind of take away all the lines that you've done, because they're going to remain. You're not going to like completely scrub them out of existence. This is like creating a stencil. You know, it's this is why it's really important to work large, especially when you're starting with stuff, because A, it's just going to come out nicer. B, your hand movements, like if you're using your whole wrist and elbow and shoulder to like create these strokes, you're going to get much more fluid, lovely lines. Whereas when you're working, like if you're working with something this big, you're going to be like kind of like everything's going to be tight. You're not going to see what you're working on. You're kind of covering your entire piece with your hand and making it impossible for you to know if what you're doing is working for the overall piece or not. That's not to say that you can't do small pieces or you shouldn't do small pieces. I just wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's like trying to like learn things as they go, which is what you're doing. You're learning as you go, which is so fabulous. All right, and so now I don't use colored pencils at all. I don't find them to be very expressive or enjoyable to use. This is a wax pastel. These are very, very cheap. And I've chosen this particular one because it's kind of got a theme going. Like this is like a color that I'm going to be able to replicate throughout throughout the piece. This is probably going to end up being a multimedia piece just because I couldn't, like, I wasn't going to like search through my horrible trash heap of art supplies and items in this exact moment because I just got home from an office day and I kind of wanted to relax. So I didn't want to like, you know, start gathering up every single item that I have. So we're just going to take it cash. All right, so that's 10. There we go. Let's clean that off. Yeah, I guess what I was trying to say about pastels is that I like how expressive they are. They've got like a more sort of, I don't know, I feel like I have to be so finite when I'm using a colored pencil. Everything is kind of very specific, whereas with this you can kind of be like a little bit more free-flowing. Do, you know, that kind of thing. Well, and they blend a lot better together. I mean, you can blend colored pencils, but it's not that easy. There we go. All right. That's looking okay. We're gonna try. So now I'm really squinting, because I'm gonna punch in a lot of shadows here. There we go. That's a big one right there. Just look at your reference image, close your eyes as tightly as you can, but still see the image, and just find the dark spots and replicate those. Like the darkest areas are going to jump out at you. Photographers do this, well, at least like, you know, traditional old school style photographers do this. They'll like wink and stare at certain objects and like look for where the light and the shadow is, and then they'll adjust their their cameras and whatnot to get leaning. Now I don't know if my pad is still under the camera or not. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's still. Yes, no, yeah. All right, cool. All right, what color is that? Great. There we go. Wish I had found a my white pastels, because those really kind of help to make some marks. Also, you don't need to feel incredibly dedicated to an accuracy of color. Like, I noticed that with the piece you did of me, those lapels, you didn't have a color that matched it so well, so you just kind of went with what you had. That's perfectly fine to do. Just be conscious of like what that color is doing in context to the rest of the piece. Like, try and like make those decisions as an overall kind of color theory decision making, rather than just like, this one's close. Like, think about like, is this aiding or distracting? Or, not to say that there was anything wrong with the color you chose for the lapels for mine. I'm just saying like, this is a thing that I've noticed some people get trapped in, is like, if you don't have the right color and then you just pick which one you think is close, it might not be the best choice if it doesn't really kind of go with the rest of the thing. Like, it might be more advantageous to the overall kind of aesthetic of the thing to kind of grab something a little like unexpected, even as long as it's keeping with a certain kind of color harmony, you know? So yeah, like for example, I don't have a blue near me right now. I don't think, nope. And so I'm just kind of gonna go with like this gray blue color. I'm just gonna put that in there, and it really doesn't make that big a difference, especially because like, I'm not trying to like recreate the photo. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want another version of this photo, and I'll tell you why I don't want another version of this photo. It's because this photo already exists and it's already perfect the way it is. What I want to do is I want to take inspiration from this photo and do my own take on it, which is way more interesting, way more powerful, way more important to like give it my version of it, you know? So yeah, so I've started using a marker because like I said, I was out of different colors there, and so I'm just gonna do a bit of this. There we go. Very happy with that. Also, don't worry about like adding your own embellishments and stuff like that. Like, if you think like, oh, I really wish this had this part to it, or oh, I really wish this was, try it. Who cares? Like, no one's asking for a reproduction of a thing, especially not when you're, you know, just getting started. That being said, can be worthwhile to try and do perfect, accurate representations, but definitely you don't need to consider it a finished product, or that it has to be exactly accurate or even close to exactly accurate for it to be a successful piece. I think the ones that are the most successful are the ones that look interesting, new, but also similar enough, or at least close enough to the subject matter that was chosen, in order for people to recognize it and be like, oh my gosh, that is Slasher. Like, if that's the result, then it's a success. Like, even if there's parts of it that are just completely new or just don't have anything to do with it, Um, as long as if it's looking like what you want it to be, then you've done the job. I'm squinting again, just trying to find like where I might want additional shapes. There we go. Yeah, cool. Ooh, let's try that one. Yeah, there we go. Hells yeah. Awesome. Now, I am realizing now that this has probably gone on for at least 15 minutes, which means I'm going to have to upload it to YouTube. There's no possible way I'm going to be able to send it to you via Facebook. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be a whole ordeal. All right. Yeah, there we go. Right. Ooh, yellow dots. And a hat that's not quite blue. I don't have any blue with me at the moment. It's probably over there. It's probably not far, but you know, I'm sitting here. And as I said before, it doesn't actually matter that much. Yeah, or I could spend a lot more time on these hands, like a shit ton more times. Like, don't look at the hands. The hands aren't the focus of this. The focus of this is, oh, this is interesting. Oh, very interesting. Does that even work still? Oh, hells yeah. A nice light gray marker, especially a light gray warm marker, does wonders for shading. Do some real subtle, cute kind of things. There we go. Yeah, nice, awesome. All right. There we go. Oh, this makeup isn't going to turn out so well if I don't actually use some proper blue, though, is it? Perhaps I shall have to stand up. Biggest takeaway from this one is the acknowledgement of the camera angle. Really want to see that that you're looking for the direction of the form, the anatomy. It's pretty important, especially if you're looking at something that isn't using a direct angle. You're cutting yourself out at the knees in terms of trying to make something look accurate, and so really, really good to establish a strong sense of direction with things relating to that. That's another fun thing about pastels is that you can kind of claw them out a bit if you wanted to do some highlights, which is nice. Yeah. Where'd that black go? There it is. We might just give it a little shaping there. Yeah. That's pretty decent. There you go. I'm probably shading a bit. So again, I'm just kind of squinting, just sort of seeing what areas need a little bit more shadow. All right, we're gonna do these blue. So this one was sitting next to me, which may or may not be the wrong shade, but it's actually pretty good. Nice. Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna punch in with more black there. It deserves a little bit of darkness. Nope, not from that. Let's run out somehow. We'll try that. Yeah, that should be okay. Yeah, cool. I think it's pretty decent. Maybe we'll give a couple of dashes of the blue. Do I have yellow? No, that's all right. So just punch this orange in here. Just kind of. A little bit of red. Yeah, what happened to that gray, light gray? Where'd that light gray one go? Oh, there it is. All right, let's try and fill in some of the shadows here. Perfect. Lovely. Yeah, sort of a semi-successful first go at things for you. I hope you enjoy the video. I'll send more so you can further tips and tricks. I think you're doing wonderful work. I admire your work ethic. You're absolutely incredible. Your improvements are astounding. I think you should be very, very proud of yourself.